It's been about a 2-week break, really, from that last video to the one that I'm starting back on again. Now that handrail was delayed in its delivery. It took from the 9th to the 29th to get it here. So it's been a while, and I've set back up shop and got my string lines set up for the easement there, and got it clamped in place a little bit better than what I had beforehand. That way I can draw it a little bit tighter, make sure I get my trajectory proper, going all the way up at the top up there where I got the string line. And I've got some preliminary cuts made, and I got some stuff ready to be joined together. I also have what I call a square jig. This is cut. It's a very rough block, but that hole has been done with my drill press that I have here. I set that up and pop that hole in there. And now I know that hole is square. So I can use this on that end of that fitting there. And that way I know that when I run my drill through that hole, it'll be square with the face of that piece and with the face of the handrail that's going to meet it. So that way I don't have anything going off at an angle one way or the other, because it's hard to get that by eye. And this will be good for the few holes that I have, because each time I use the drill on this, it'll move that hole around a little bit, make it elongated, ream it out a little bit, but it'll do the few holes that I need for this. So it's also cut, so you can see it'll meets the bottom profile. I can't hold it steady too well, but anyway, it's the same width as the height. Same width, height. Once it all gets lined up, so I can use it as a reference point, just so there's not so much material that's in my own way trying to hold this in place and drill it at the same time. I put a little slight recess in there just so I can get a good starting point, so I can lay this up with the drill on it. And that'll allow me to run this hole in as deep as I need to. And I got it chalked up against my drill press on the other side so I don't push it across the table. At least I hope, while I'm drilling this, and I get this on there. I think that went a lot better than doing it by hand. So I like that so much, I'm going to get this one also. I'm going to get it lined up, because I do have this one hole piloted accurately, not relatively accurately. And that looks good. That's a good one right there. So I'm going to go ahead and set up for my next ones. I have my handrail up. That's already been marked. I also have that small indent put into the end of this. That now I got to go ahead and make count, because I got to switch this out to a 1/2-inch drill bit, and that'll be meaning I got to change this out also to a larger pilot hole as well. So we'll see what that means. I might go something differently, but for right now I'm planning on changing out my blocks. And again, it's crosshaired already. Just enough to start it. Get this out of the way. This is just about 12 foot long, and it's rather not unwieldy, but it gets in the way pretty easy. So again, I'll put this up against my drill press, situate it so I can push on it without no issue. Get everything lined up. Get that started in there. That is much, much better. Yes, sir. I've done these freehand without that guide block before, and I have found out that the bolt coming up out of it is either like this or like that, or sideways. But you can take a hammer and knock it over to where it's straight. But sometimes I feel as though I can run the risk of splitting the wood that the lag bolt is in, because the lag bolt's quite strong. And hopefully this will get it much more square than what I have been beforehand. I'm going to use the drill press to see if I can help myself get these holes that are cross drilled. I got the one hole in from this end, and I'm going to drill the one for the access for the nut on the top. And typically one of these fixtures, I've ran them not plumb or not parallel with his face, where it's imperative that they're parallel with his face, because if they're running at an angle, then you run out of room on the inside to run the nut up on, or just depending on which way it goes, it just makes it difficult to get those nuts on and get them drawn up tight. So to get this parallel with his face is really important. So in between my jig here that I'm going to have, it's a rough made jig. Got my 1-inch bit here in the drill press and a block to hold this up, hopefully plumb, so that when I get this lined up on that crosshair that I have, and I put my, of course I'm not going to have that, I can only use it as an offset and find out. That's actually probably closer than what I could ever do it by freehand, because I've done it by freehand all the other time. So I'm going to fire this up and get this thing in there. Let's set this up higher now. And that's not going to work. So looks like I have no choice but to do the rest of it freehand. But I will catch the rest of them, of these pieces that I need to do while I'm at it. All right, got back on to assembling some of these things, and what I got, I managed to get the other baluster in this one right here. That was a bit of a fight to get that round hole made into a square one, but it's in there and it's good and stable. And the fixture, when it's pushed down in place, it's actually nice and nice and level on its bottom surface here. I still have yet to add this last baluster that I made that special little peg for right there. That still has not been glued in yet, but that's all part of, once I get this all assembled, I'll put this together as a finished unit in one piece with the handrail in place at the top and at the bottom as well. And I'll also have the shoes on at the bottom down here, which dress up those bottoms. So with that, I'm going to start with the handrail assembly, at least getting these rail bolts in that I was talking about. And that is simply one of these rail bolts. This is an installation tool that is made by the stair manufacturer here. And this is a rail bolt that I pointed out earlier, and I screwed that right into this here part of the tool that allows me to turn these into the pre-drilled holes that I have to assemble these together. So once this is put together, I need to leave an 1.13" to where it will go through this hole and show the nut on the inside. So when it's all done, it'll draw together. This is white oak. This is not an easy deal to run these in. I'm glad I only got 3 of them to do. And I've actually got an 1.13" right there already. That's worked out. Thank you, Lord. It might be 1 7/8". I'm going to give it another turn and withdraw the tool and then check it. Actually, no, I better withdraw the tool now, because I don't know how much is actually up inside of this thing here. So it is an 1 7/8". So I need to take this 13 down to 13, because otherwise when I put this piece in there, this will be sticking out too far and I can't slip the nut around the end to start rolling the threads in, and it can be difficult. Should only take about another turn, or another half turn or so. Okay, I have my 13/16. And it looks like I'm going to have to run that in even more. Maybe I don't remember the 13/16 proper, but I'm going to do something about that. And it might be from a different problem that I've created. So let me see what I can do to fix this to make sure that all this comes together right. I can work on another one, but I'm going to make sure I get this one right first because I don't want to repeat any problems that I may have created on this. Let me catch up on what I've done so far. Doing that, using that rail bolt and adjusting this for length like I needed to. I got that nut inside there to where this is all drawn up tight. You can see a little bit of discoloration from the glue where that has came in onto the surface. I sponged it off with a damp sponge, so there's not so much. But I got to sand all these down before it goes in place, so all that'll go away once the detailing is done around here with the sandpaper, files, rasp, such like that. And then I'll plug the hole because I haven't made all my cuts yet. I did make this cut that meets the handrail coming down the way, and I'll show you that because I got the other one also. I cut that the last time I was showing you what I was doing here. So that one's done. I also got the hole in the end, like I had also mentioned to you. So that's part is done, but I'm going to show you what I did to get this cut made, same way I did the other one. I made what's called a pitch block, and a pitch block is just a triangular shape of material, which is corresponding to the angle of the nose to nose. And what I did was take a larger piece of wood and a straight edge, and I went ahead and put that from nose to nose, and then use that to mark a line across the top of that block and then cut that off accurately. Because if that's not done accurately, then these cuts will not be square to the run of the tread, because this dictates the square to the run of the tread. That's what makes this mark. And how I got that done was that I set this up on top of the tread because it's a handy flat surface. So that was in there like that. And the intersecting point, like I mentioned, was right there. So I went ahead and marked that. And then with that mark there, that told me where the intersecting point was, where that tangent was. Then I reversed this and put that, and then marked that to where I had, let me see if I can get, sorry about the angle, but that's how I marked that line to cut. And that told me what I needed to know. And I used this as part of my arrangement on the saw, and I held it in place, shimmed it up and blocked it so it was all square and true to the fence on my saw, and gave it one clean cut after a few attempts. Anyway, but that's how that came to be. So with that, I can now set this on top of that run up there with the newel post and get that newel post adjusted to height, because I have my string line, which will come right up the top of this. And that's my next step. So upstairs I go. All right, everything's up to the top of the stairs where the string line intersects with the wall. And I've got this roughly cut to where I can at least attempt to put these together to see how all this comes into play. So without hopefully dropping anything down to the second floor, which would be disastrous for the floor for this piece, for my self-respect. Anyway, what I'm going to do is put this in a spot close to that string line and get it to the wall where it's supposed to be set at, just like that. Try to hold that. Put this over top of it. And wow, I don't think I want to cut that anymore. I have the fixture, the fitting, connected up to the main length of handrail that you can see passing on down through the way. I got my other square hole cut in that I need for that baluster to fit in right there. And this is almost ready to set. I still need to sand these joints out because this fitting here to this straight piece, there are two separate pieces of machinery that does it, and that don't necessarily all fit the same way around things. So there's some sanding that needs to be. These are pretty much what I use. I use other things as well. I've had to use chisels before, but this is just a very coarse file, half round. So I think it's called half round file, and a belt sander with strapped around a piece of ripped down 1x4 to the right width, cut just the right width, but I more or less stretch it over top of the block. Some people make them shorter and put shims in the ends, but I've had them fall out. So I just cut it literally as dead tight as I can get it. And that's what I use for flattening out things. It really has been really good for that. And just a good old regular piece of sandpaper. I like this purple stuff. It's actually has a good durable backing on it. It doesn't want to fold up and wrinkle up and shift on itself when you're trying to sand it. Anyway, but it's been really handy. So these are the things that I use to put this together. I'm going to start grinding on this, get this thing flattened out across the back, set this away a little bit, get my gut out of the way, and commence to begin. That feels good through there. Feels good to the other piece too. Now I got some really aggressive sanding belts here, and I would typically have this on a block as well, but I'm kind of wanting the flexibility because I got to do this inside curve on the side that you don't see the camera, and I also got a bit of a lump here on this side that goes down deep in this corner. And I'm going to try to get the bulk of that out with this without removing this bead. Get a little close up on there. But I got this bead on this through here. So I got this lump. You can almost hear it right there. And I don't want to take out that bead by using too coarse of a grit of sandpaper against it. So I got to use a little TLC once I pick my sandpaper back up. And anyway, and get that ground down. So let's see what I can do here. Using my thumb as a gauge so it keeps it away from that bead. And it looks like it forms a pretty good corner there. It's not dead on, but it certainly saves me a lot of work trying to get this thing brought down to the line that it needs to be. That's good up there. And I'm almost there. So I've had to take a chisel and carve these out to get those flush down inside the corner. I may have to go that way with this, but I'm going to try the file first. I can lay that half round file right inside that bead corner and take out. And I'm probably not going to be able to do it that easily, but I'm going to take that in there. I understand they have scrapers that are already shaped to fit this profile, and I don't know, I've used scrapers on wood where it changes direction here, the way it like has this curve, and it wants to catch it really bad. And maybe it's just a matter of sharpening or something like that, but I don't know. I just haven't gotten close to the idea of doing something like that. Usually this has been pretty good for me. Now that's really getting down. And now what I can do with this bead, there's a little hang on this bead also. Now I can take that flat spot and just roll it. Now hang that onto the edge of the bead and just roll that over slowly. And that'll pare that down. Still got a little bit more to go. It's slow moving. It is. This is not quick work. It's slow and tedious. I mean, I guess it could be, but I don't consider myself a hack and don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings out there. But if you want to do a good job, you need to take your time and do it right. All right, that half is done. I still got to get this upper half. Do a little something else here. I'm going to catch this from the other side. What I got is that little flat that's down here at the bottom is not tying into the bottom of this one very well. It's like this piece is, that might be shifted a little bit. I tell you, it is minor stuff. I'm talking like, right now it's not even a 32nd of an inch. Can't see it barely, but you can feel it. So if you run your hand down your handrail, or down this handrail, you'll feel that little bit of a thing going on. So that's what I'm after getting rid of this for. That's much better. That's down within a sanding block now. And change sides. All right. That's starting to shape up. I got to get this down with the 120 because I really hit this with some coarse stuff. One nice benefit on this, at least there's a benefit to me, is that this is receiving a clear coat. If this was a stain, I would have to be a little bit more mindful of what I'm doing because the least little bit of coarse sanding left over will show up as a dark line or lines when it comes to having a stain put over top of it, because it'll just grab that scratches, and just draw that stain right into it, showing those coarse marks. Well, when it's all done well enough with the 120, those very same scratches from the 120 grab it, but it grabs it uniformly, not like having the 40 grit in the mix of it. So I do want to make sure this is sanded well. Nevertheless, just easing that edge just a little bit because that's a very hard, sharp corner around this. And that'll let it hold the finish a lot better. Now this side, I know I'm going to hit it a little bit more because I'm going to have handling marks over top of this. But I'm going to roll this over onto the other side. And start on this side. And I don't want to run it over on top of this too bad because that'll just take this down lower as well. I just want to take down only this part. Okay, that's good on that outside curve. Of course, the outside curves are always easier to do than the inside curves. And I got a little corner right there that I need to deal with. I'm going to do that with my other block, but I'm going to work on this a little bit more. Oop. The big thing about sanding, even with something this coarse, or actually with any sandpaper, you always want to go with the grain. There's maybe exceptions when you can go cross grain or, diagonal wise, but that's for bulk knockdown. You always want to finish off with the grain. So that's the big key thing. And I'm going to go ahead and take this to the 80. I don't know if the camera does it well, but anyway, I got that worked down pretty good. So it feels good under finger. The lines go through true, nice clean line, got that all faired in. So I'm about ready to set this into place again temporarily. Doing stupid stuff. If it does, it's going to take out the camera. that'd be interesting. Matter of fact, I want to build in some reliability. So I'm going to. All right, I did manage to allow the handrail to fall over. All right, I managed to get it back up again. When I was walking away from it, I tried to mess with the bottom, and I shouldn't have, because the whole thing laid over slowly. I made it fall easy, but it did shove the camera over, but not take it out. So I'm tickled about that. Nothing happened with it. Again, it was a nice, easy fall. It just kind of rolled over off my jimmy bar that I have right here and just laid it over just so. So I have the bottom ready to be screwed in place just temporarily. I'm sending a screw down through the top of that turnout. The pins that they offer are like next to nothing, so I don't like what I have to do, but that's the only way to do it. I'm going to plug that with a oak plug when it's done. Looks like my microphone. Looks like my microphone's going dead again, so oh well. I'll wear this for looking good. But anyway, this is up in place now. It's got a good, even, parallel line with the steps down below. So I can take the newel post and I'm going to rotate this around. So between that and the fixture that finishes off, well, that's pretty darn blessing. If I see that right, you were blessing me. Because I cut that just by chance the right way. Just, I don't know. I gotta make the final cut on this piece because this is still running along. But I have it marked. Because it looks like I can put the half newel in place. This has taken about, well, I don't know how many tries to get this handrail cut to length right here. This is the end of the handrail coming from down below. Again, I have it situated down there with the screw temporarily put in place. I'll be taking it off one more time to set the rail bolts that's going in there. I have the newel post, the half newel, you can just barely see that. I have the half newel post up against the wall, screwed in place. I have yet one more screw to put in there and some plugs to put in where I have the screws countersunk in. So I'm going to set this back down stable. And what I have finally, I believe, is the last cut made where this meets the wall exactly the way it's supposed to be, because this wall has a slight taper on it. I'll hold it down here. The wall has a slight taper on it where it bells back from the drywall corner bead built up. It's not flat from corner. It's not flat from corner down the way. It always is built out from the corner beads being added. So this cut's made to compensate for that. This cut is also made to compensate for the wall was trying to force it out of plumb here. So I tapered it besides angling it to kick it back up so this part is plumb and meeting the handrail proper down here. This is obscured by my temporary brace to keep it from throwing off, but when it goes in, it sets nicely there and it moves on in. And as you can see, it'll line right up. And this right here is good for putting this puppy in place. So this is plumb. I'm going to double check it because I'm talking and maybe it's Well, let's just see what I got. Actually, that's looking fairly decent there. So what I'm going to do is take this apart, plug these holes and sand them off flush, because you can see that one hole is up underneath this tight little spot right there. I have another screw to set in the center, and then two more holes to plug here and there. So it'll all look like it's a solid piece of oak when it's done. I'll use the oak plugs that I have. My plug cutter, I can cut them here on site. So I'll go ahead and get this drilled in with a 1-inch hole down here, just like I have one of the other ones like I showed you. And this will get the wood portion going into this, because it has that groove cut at the bottom that I can't put that 1-inch plug in at the bottom, because I got the track cut in that piece there for the balusters to go in, and then where I'm trying to put a plug in, if I were to put a plug in there, which would be nice, but then I'd have a plug in the track, and it'd be kind of hard to put my balusters in with all that going on. So it's simpler to put the wood thread part in this. That way I don't have to worry about putting a 1-inch plug where that 1/2-inch track already is. And then use this to put the larger hole for this to slip onto it, and then put that nut in at the bottom. This is really actually the preferred way for me to do it. That way I got gravity working for me trying to put that nut on at that angle. So this will work out good like this already. And that's one of the deciding factors of doing stuff. But this had another criteria that I needed to meet. So I'm going to take this apart, put it together, bring it back up, and see what it acts like. I'm going to go ahead and pop this handrail off. I got this rail bolt in place, and I wound up, even with my guide, I wound up coming up at an angle. So I used a hammer and a nut on the end to drive the end back down. And I thought I had the video going, but that didn't work out that way. It I don't know. I must not have turned it on to begin with. So you have to drill a 1-inch hole in this one. I got it marked right there, and got the one supposed to be a 3/8 diameter hole in there, and I had to move it over a little bit, but that's because things weren't lining up. And I'm going to get the 1-inch hole in there and just see how all this plays together here. Here's that rail upside down with that bolt in the bottom of it, like I was mentioning. And this is probably about the prime time to show you how that wrench works. So let me get that. And you got to roll it in from the side, and you can see it'll go right down inside there. My hand's going to be in its own way, but that'll get this and that's drawing that up. It's a 1/16 of a turn at a time, but it'll get that caught up. But to get it back out, you just roll it back around the side again, and you pull it back out. Now, it's done a pretty good job of drawing that up already, and I wanted to make sure it was in a decent order before I went any farther with it, because I have to fine tune it while it's it's not relatively loose, it's snug. But I needed to get that fine tuned so there's still room to move it. And this is only a dry fit. I'm going to put it in place still and see what this acts like, because then I'll take it apart and glue it if it all works. Because I might still have yet to make one more cut. I have it set in place, all looking good at the bottom. And it comes on up here and it meets the wall very, very nicely. But I do have a gap at the top over here. You can see that. And I don't want that there. And it was a tight squeeze fit. So I'm going to go ahead, and I have a mark right there. So I'm going to scribe that off and taper that out to get past that. Remember I was saying about how the drywall's buckled out, built out because of the corner beads here. They're always thicker or built up at the corner compared to back here on the wall. So I'm going to do something to fix that right there. That last cut at the top that I was speaking about, that has been made, and so the gap's a little tighter than what it was, and I have a screw that I think will draw it up some more. The handrail here, where the fitting goes up to the wall, this is the top end, but the underside of the rail, this is the top of the rail, and where I have this set, where I had this set in place, I drew a plumb line where the last baluster goes. And that last baluster goes right into this fitting where it does not have that plowed rail where the balusters would go with the fillets that I was speaking of earlier. So drawing this line where the plumb line is for the baluster gave me the width of the baluster in that particular spot. And I still haven't finished cutting it yet, but I got to get that cut in at a severe angle. And I have a baluster handy that will show you by the time I'm done with it. That'll fill that hole right up. Now, that's still not the angle, but the angle will have that like so, and that'll be well housed by the time that's done. Oops. That'll be well housed by the time that's done. So it'll keep it contained where it needs to be. I just got to get that angle cut in a little bit more on this most difficult side to cut. This takes some very careful because I'm going into the grain. If it was a square cut like this, this would be a piece of cake. But since I got to run it back into the grain, I got to take it a very slow chunk at a time because it wants to dig in very, very strong. So I got to take it like a layer at a time. Because if I go in too much of an angle, the face of this smooth piece here the face of this will simply blow out because of the way the chisel has to go in at such a steep angle. It has to go in about, shucks, it has to go in about like that to follow the angle of the baluster. And that's prime for it lifting out the face, not cutting into the inside of the pocket. So that's where the careful cutting comes in, a little piece at a time. And I don't have to go in that far. It just has to be at the right angle. Looks like I got it. And I think I might have that. Just that last little bit. Done it. Let me double check it with my drawn line and what it looks like. That is doable. I'm going to take the handrail and put it in one last time, I hope. And I'm going to fasten the one end so I can lift it up and slip the balusters in. And then fasten that one because I got a couple of loose balusters that I really would like to get in there. Let's see if that's in there. Yep. That's anchored. And get this one slipped in. And that's good right there. So all right, I got the rail set. I have the plugs in where this has got a 4-inch screw going down through this countersunk plug down to this newel post. You've seen the little teensy pin maybe in an earlier video about how I didn't like how it's like a 1/4 inch diameter. Nothing to really hold this in place the way it needs to be. So I went ahead and to get that, I've got my little glued in wood plug underneath here where that's my one that I lengthened up. I have the shoes taped up high so the finishers can work on the treads without them getting in the way. And I have that one down inside with my little slug. I'm calling it a slug. It's just the extension that I added. It's covered up by the shoe. What I've been doing here is this point. I've already gotten the balusters. I'm cutting the balusters for the rest of the run through here. And what I'm doing is taking a measure first with a level in mind and marking it where I want it to go at and getting it level, which is what I'll actually start doing here. Okay, that one's been leveled in. And with that, I know how deep this pocket is. So I can give a long mark and the angle that I want to cut it at and get that cut off. So I'm going to do that for a number of these. So you'll see a lot of back and forth, but I'm going to let the camera run. That should show up what it needs to be. All right, I got this one cut off following the angle of the stairs. I'm going to try it in a number of different places up here and just see how it acts, because it all, Lord willing, it'll be all the same length where it'll fit within that 1/2 inch groove backed up by these fillets that I still have yet to put in. I got the next steps are done. Well, the major part of it. I still have to sand off that right there and the plug up at the top on that other one. I showed you that earlier. I got all the balusters cut, the ones that have yet to go in, and I'll wait for the stairs to get finished first and the handrail so I can get them in place afterwards, and it'll get the finish of the staircase much nicer, where it won't have to cut around all that stuff at the bottom. I have the balusters already pre-cut, and I have them labeled where they are to go. Each one of those holes has a location, and everything's bound up pretty good. I'm going to close this box up and wrap that up tight so they can be handled and left here on the job site and kept clean. The fillets, which I'll cut to length in between each baluster in that 1/2 inch groove, I have that bundled up and the face labeled so that they'll know which side to finish, and hopefully it'll become more obvious when they see this on the back side. That's obviously the sides I don't want to finish, so that will hopefully get the idea across the rest of the way. Then I can cut these up into the shorter pieces, because these are going to wind up being about 3 inches long when they're done, to go in between each baluster underneath that handrail over there where that groove is, deep groove is. So that's about the most practical way to get those finished off. The other stuff is coming back after the handrails are done, and then that will have me wrapped up here for the time. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, sorry about the scary look there. Anyway, this is about, again, ready for me to leave out of here until the homeowner says the painting is done. And I can come back in here and just literally assemble the rest of the balusters that I already have cut. Well, folks, I'm back here again after 2 months. It's been quite a long time waiting for the stairs to get done the way to finish, and it was an agreement that I regret making, but I'm not going to complain too much. But taking 2 months to finish off a set of stairs is really quite excessive, I would have to admit, because anyway, I figured it would be a week or so, come in here, get done, but no, 2 months. Anyway, folks, I'm going to go ahead and resume on with the balusters that I set up the last video that I had made here, where they're already pre-cut, and they should just simply fit in. And I'll just have to custom cut, hopefully not too much custom, because all these should be about the same length of fillets all the way up and down the whole length of the stairs. There will be exceptions, I know, but for the most part it should be a pretty easy install. I pretty much have my fillets figured out how long they need to be, at least within, a close margin. And they're about 3 9/16 from long point to short point. And I got a couple of them that are 1/32 of an inch shorter as well, because in case it wants to creep ahead, I have some shorter ones to mix in there. I'm not going to let it get really out of plumb, so that's what the extra little pieces are about. And I might need to cut them longer, but I started with some shorter ones just in case that's the way it went. So that's my process here for that part. I'm gonna set them there. My shorter ones are down here. And these are going in pretty tight already in the channel at the top. But I'm going to put a little bit of caulk. It's going to be clear caulk, so if there is any kind of ooze out, one, I'm going to clean it up for starters. But when it dries, it's still going to dry clear, just like clear finish that's on the handrails. And that's I'm going to use that to, one, keep the balusters from a potential rattle at the top, and also to help bond the fillets in also. So I'm going to start with just running probably only about this strip here, that's only about 18 inches long. Put about maybe a 3/16 bead inside of it, and run it down just a little bit onto that last fillet that I have in there. I only got 3 in place. So between my headless pinner, I've got some 1 3/16 nails in here. The pieces are 1/2 of an inch thick. I'm going to take the fillet, first the baluster, and set that in there. Now it's just bedded itself into that little bit of caulk I have wiped down into the face of that. And I'm also going to set the fillet up a little high, and I'm going to push that down so some of that caulk winds up on the face of that fillet as I'm pushing it down into the other baluster. And what's nice is it stays there. I don't have to hold it in place while I'm changing hands. And a little bit peeked out right there. I'm talking just the briefest little amount. And then the next baluster, I'm going to check my number, check my plumb, and it looks like it needs to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to cut a longer one because I don't want that to get too far. It's only like about a 1/16 out, so, but I'm going to get a 1/16 longer fillet strip here. And I'll keep these longer ones in a different spot compared to the rest of them too. These two I have marked, but I'm not going to mark these any differently. And again, I'm going to set it high and let it push down some caulk onto the other one. And I'm going to check this one for plumb to see if that helped throw it in. That's dead on the money. Love it. And again, I can walk away from it because I have the caulk holding it in. I'm going to go back to the standard and see if it and if this one wants to lay forward again, I know that I need to go to that 1/16 of an inch longer. Yes, I do. Now the trick will be to get that one out, so I got to use a little something that'll grip onto the end and not let loose, and let that pop down. Of course, it always winds up caulk side down, so I got my bucket of water handy. So since I've squished the caulk out up here already from that last one I just removed, I'm going to add a little extra onto this one here to make up for what I took out on that other piece. And I'm going to do that little dab on the end as well. And it looks like I still need to add a little bit more. All right, got a few extra. Well, maybe it's the last last adjusted size that's needed. We'll see. I brought my ladder in. So I made some more pieces that were not the full length, because I seen it was starting to creep ahead, just the way that this is the nature of it. So I got some that were back to the 1/16 of an inch shorter that they were. And I'm going to run those for a while and just check each one as I go to make sure that, again, they don't either run ahead or behind too far. I knew it was bound to happen, but I had to cut one. This is the first one, perhaps the first one of many, but I know I got the better part of them done right, for the right length. It's time to take out that temporary screw I put in over 2 months ago, or maybe it was just 2 months ago. Still, time to take it out. Well, folks, that's pretty much got the end of this here set of stairs. It was a long time coming, but it's done. And I believe the homeowner's happy with what I've done with them. So anyway, folks, hey, if you like what I've done here, hopefully you guys learn something from it also, and you find it worthwhile watching. And if you do, if you would please like and subscribe, that would really tickle me for that. I try to keep new content going on all the time. I'm still learning the ropes about YouTube and learning how to edit. It takes really a lot of time to edit these things, but hopefully I'll come up with something that's at least comprehensive when it's done. Appreciate you hanging in there with me. So until next time, the next job, we'll see you. Bye-bye.